Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Beef Up Front podcast here on Pick Swap Media. Your host, Ryan Coyle, joined alongside Kevin Cannon for our weekly NFL preview, where we'll be diving into the Buffalo Bills this week. Looking like potentially the best team in the league right now, the Minnesota Vikings. I think we could say the surprise team of the league so far, starting out at 3-0. So a lot to get into today, hit on all the big games. I'm still recovering from New Orleans. Kevin, you're brought to us by Chicago. Any Bears rumblings out there this week?
No, not really. Everything about the Bears is pretty quiet right now.
Yeah, it's been a weird start, and already with the number one, number two picks at quarterback looking a little different so far. A lot of discussions about that in the early goings. For us, though, Kev, our picks haven't been that hot. 7-10 week for you. 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread, 3-2 on the over/under, 1-0 on your dog last week, and 1-0 on your lock of the week. Nailed the Panthers there with your lock of the week, big time outright win. 5-12 week for me, 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread, 2-3 on the over/under, 0-1 on my dog, which was the Chargers, and 1-0 on my lock, which was Kamara over 102.5 total yards. That one hit pretty easily there. But I think the first 3-4 weeks we kind of use as the preseason, and now we hit the ground running here. Week 4, let's get moving in the right direction. The big 5 games of the week, as always. And we're going to start this week on Sunday with, like I said at the beginning, maybe the surprise team of the league so far with the Minnesota Vikings starting out at 3-0, traveling to Green Bay to play a 2-1 Packers team that I think you can lump them into that surprise team in the league so far kind of conversation. After the Jordan Love injury, they find a way to win their next 2 games and kind of stay afloat in what looks like it's going to be a very competitive division. But this is a 1 o'clock kick on CBS. Packers 2.5-point favorites here at home over the undefeated Vikings, over under 43.5. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, kind of like what you were just saying, to reiterate it. 2 teams very surprising. Vikings starting 3-0, and Sam Darnold looking like the best QB in the league, and the Packers going 2-0 so far with Malik Willis. I'll take the Vikings here because I think they are legit. I saw a stat today that they're averaging 1.3 net yards per play, which is good for 3rd in the league behind 2 other 3-0 teams in the Bills and Seahawks. The Vikings defense is also only giving up 10 points a game. I do think Jordan Love will end up playing in this game for Green Bay, but I'm still going to ride the Vikings hot start. I think Aaron Jones has a solid day in his return to Lambeau, and this allows Sam Darnold to continue what he's done to begin the season. I still think the Packers are a very good team, and I think a very good team could win this game, but I just don't see it here. I'm going Vikings 23, Packers 21, Vikings plus 2.5, over 43.5.
Yeah, I like the Vikings on the road in the spot as well. I think Vegas can keep the points. I'm going to take them outright. I think this is where we see Malik Willis get exposed a bit. He's looked really good in 2 weeks, and I think you got to give definitely a hat tip to Matt LaFleur, putting his entire team in a good position to win without their star quarterback. I mean, Jordan Love paid like one. He better perform like one when he gets back, but he's put Matt LaFleur's put his players, and especially this backup quarterback in Malik Willis, who just got traded there during training camp, during the preseason. So a guy that hasn't really even been in the system that long, and he's performed pretty well. He's done his job taking care of the football. So hat tip to him for sure, but also hat tip to Brian Flores for orchestrating some great defense in the early going. I mean, that's including holding C.J. Stroud and the Texans to only 7 points last weekend. Pretty much since C.J. Stroud's got in the league over a little over a year now, he's had his way with most defenses. So hat tip to Brian Flores and Matt LaFleur. Some great coaching early on, and definitely Kevin O'Connell as well, and what he's been able to do with Sam Darnold. I think you can make an argument that LaFleur and O'Connell could be the coaches of the co-coaches of the year so far. I mean, obviously a lot of football to play, but that's what I would say in the early going. Packers have done a great job, though, running the ball, making Malik Willis as comfortable as they can. But Brian Flores, I think he kind of throws a major wrinkle in that. He's going to blitz all day. He's going to make this young man's life hell. And I think that's where the major trip up is this week for the Green Bay Packers. A Sam Darnold regression game could be coming as well. I mean, we've seen him over the course of his career. He's had good spurts. He's had good moments, but he always comes back to earth. He's definitely in like the most offensive friendly system that he's had so far, the best coach that he's had so far, the best surrounding weapons that he's had so far, probably as well. But I think he could be due for a letdown game. Is this the spot on the road at the Packers? I think he might come back to earth a little bit in this one, but I do think the defense is going to be enough, and I'm going to trust Sam Darnold here over Malik Willis to make a few more plays at the end of the day. So I'm going to continue to ride the Vikings momentum here, even on the road. Vegas can keep the points. I'm going to go Vikings 20, Packers 14, so Vikings plus 2.5. Really like the under of 43.5. Already locked that bet in today. All right, now we go down to Tampa, where weather could be a major problem. Hurricane hitting the south this week. We'll see if that has any impact on the game. I saw today, doesn't sound like the game has any chance to be rescheduled or pushed back to like a Monday, but still something to keep an eye on for this week down in Tampa Bay, especially with travel as well. But the Eagles at 2-1, traveling to Tampa, as we said, 2-1 as well. 1:00 kick on Fox. Eagles minus 2.5, over under 44.5. Eagles coming off that huge road win in New Orleans, and Tampa Bay coming off a pretty crushing home loss to Denver Broncos this week. So, Kev, what are your thoughts on this matchup, and can the Eagles make it 2 in a row?
I think they can. I'm not super confident in it, though, but I'm going Eagles 24, Bucks 20, Eagles minus 2.5, under 44.5. You have to hope the Eagles defense that showed up last week is the one that we'll see the rest of the season. They were finally able to stop the run and get pressure on Derek Carr, which led to a pretty great defensive showing for the defense down in New Orleans. I have talked about Hurts turnovers all season, and they still haven't stopped. I think it's a huge concern, but the Bucks are last in the league with only 2 sacks this year, and I think, in my opinion, a pretty relatively average defense overall. So maybe that'll allow Jalen to have a better game here. I think Saquon obviously has to be the focal point, especially with AJ still out, Devonta and Lane probably out as well with concussions. And hopefully Hurts is not being pressured and is able to make smart decisions. The Bucks started the season really hot, but I think they are a little bit more of a middle-of-the-road team who doesn't do anything exceptionally great. I think the Eagles knocked them down to 2-2 here, but still continue to have questions, especially about their offense.
Yeah, this is a kind of a tough pick here for me. I could certainly see it going either way. Eagles have a lot on the line with injuries in this one that certainly could hold them back. Like, I think if you think the Bucks have a shot at winning this game, I would bet it now, because I do think if some of these star offensive players get ruled out, that the Bucks could eventually be favored in this one. But major hat tip to the Eagles. I think that's my term of the day, hat tip, but major hat tip to them for winning that game last week. I've seen that outcome end in a loss 100 times before. They never win that game back against the wall, needing a late kind of comeback like they did. Especially once it got to 3rd and 16. I thought the game was over for sure, but Jalen and Dallas Goedert were able to connect, and that was a hell of a play. That's a season-changing type of play right there. The lack of field goals is concerning to me, though, and Sirianni's decision to not kick them and then roll out Jake Elliott for a 59-yarder instead. I mean, they're 2-1 with these misfires and these bad decisions so far. It's something that needs to be cleaned up, as you said, Kevin, along with the turnovers as well before it gets too late. But a win's a win at this point in the season. I feel like the entire league is still getting their feet underneath them, and there's a lot of football left to be played. So stuff to be cleaned up for sure. But still, when you're taking your bumps and your bruises, it's good to pick up some wins along the way. And I will say now, though, even though it's Wednesday, I do not think AJ, Devontae, or Lane play this week. Neither of those 3 practice today in the walkthrough. And that's going to make it very tough, especially against a blitz-heavy Bucks that Todd Bowles has had his way a couple of times with Jalen Hurts and with Nick Sirianni as the head coach with that blitz-heavy defense. You remove arguably the best right tackle in the league, a top 5 receiver in the league in AJ, and then a top 20 to 25 receiver in Devontae. It's going to be really hard to overcome those losses against a defense that you've historically struggled against. But if the defense shows up and shows out like last week, and with the addition of Saquon on offense, anything could still be possible. But I'm just going to chalk this up as a schedule loss. I think the Eagles play this one really safe. I think you rest these 3 key players. You have the bye week next week. You let A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson get the full amount of rest they need, and then they come back 2-2. And you have the Browns at home, who are 1-2, the 1-2 Giants, the 0-3 Bengals, and the 0-3 Jaguars. Schedule kind of lightens up over those next 4 weeks after the bye week. So I think the Eagles really play it safe if they're able to go and steal a game on the road here good for them, but I don't think it's necessary to force these guys back too soon. I think they play it a little bit safe in this matchup. I think the Bucks and that blitz-heavy defense gets to Jalen Hurts and causes a few more turnovers once again. But the long-term wise, it's much more important to have those three guys healthy for the Eagles. So I'll give the Bucks the win at home here as the dog. Might even look to take them, like I said, potentially tonight, considering I think that line could move if those three guys are out. But give me Bucks 23, Eagles 20. So Bucks plus 2.5 and the under 44.5 hitting there. All right, third game of the week, we go to the AFC West. The 3-0 Chiefs, of course, at the Chargers, 2-1, coming off a loss to the Steelers, 4:25 kick on CBS. Chiefs an 8-point favorite here, over under 39.5. Derwin James has been ruled out, suspended for this game due to player safety violations. Conveniently, their best defensive player ruled out for the Chiefs game. And the Chiefs have already won on the back of a couple controversial calls. Do you think that they continue to win, Kevin, go to 4-0 this week?
Yeah, I have the Chiefs winning a pretty close one, especially given the spread. I'm going Chiefs 23, Chargers 17, so Chargers plus 8, over 39.5. I mean, you have to pick the Chiefs here. I know they haven't looked amazing this year. Kelsey's really struggled, but he still does continue to have an influence on the game. Checo's hurt as well, but they still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have Andy Reid. And then on the other side of the ball, the Chargers just have a ton of injuries. Herbert's ankle's banged up. Their tackles, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt probably won't play this week. Joey Bosa also injured his hip. He's struggled to stay healthy the past couple of years, and when he's not on the field, the defense just isn't as great. And then, like you said, Derwin James suspended for this game. The Chiefs have been playing in close games, and I think that continues here in a low-scoring game. I just trust Mahomes to be able to close the game out when needed.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I mean, the Derwin James suspension is one thing, but like I saw last night, like on Twitter, like someone made a great point. It was, you can beat your wife, you can sexually assault women, but if you hit another grown man a little bit too hard, you're going to be suspended for a game. I mean, and even like Rashee Rice, hit and run, and he hasn't missed any time yet. And Derwin James gets suspended for some hits. And obviously player safety is one thing, but seriously, some of the off-the-field stuff, and especially one of the Chiefs' key players being featured in it, with Rashee Rice and what he did this offseason, he's still able to play. And Derwin James doesn't, I mean, especially in this matchup too, it's pretty just mind-boggling stuff. And the pass interference against the Bengals, the no call last week against Kyle Pitts in the end zone. I mean, it just seems like time and time again, things get put in their favor. But they haven't really been great against the spread so far this year. They've struggled. They won last week against spread, but it's like they haven't been dominating. They haven't looked like the dominant Chiefs that we've seen in the past. Travis Kelce hasn't really showed up much. Patrick Mahomes hasn't looked that great. And say what you want, they're still 3-0. You're probably still going to pick them to win the Super Bowl come playoff time because they just find ways to win games. But they're leaving a little meat left on the bone, and that could come back to bite them down the stretch. But with all that being said, I do like the Chargers to cover this game. 8's a big number, and the Chiefs, as I said, haven't looked that dominant this year. They needed a couple comebacks. Falcons had them. Falcons had a chance to have them last week too. So I still think the Chiefs get it done. I'll go 24-20. So Chargers plus 8 and the over 39.5, but it's a complete stay away for me. Don't really have any good feeling on this game other than the Chiefs, maybe for your NFL pick'em pools or something like that, take them to win. Fourth game of the week, we go to Sunday night. On paper at the beginning of the year, this looks like one of the best games on the schedule. And now I'm a little bit concerned about the Ravens, but the Bills 3-0 travel to Baltimore. Sunday Night Football, Ravens 1-2, 8:20 kick on NBC. Ravens a 2.5-point favorite here at home over arguably the best looking team in the NFL through 3 weeks in the Bills. And the over-under is 45.5. Do you think the Ravens get it done at home, or the Bills can continue to roll here, Kevin?
I think the Bills start 4-0, winning 27-20, so they end up covering the 2.5. We're winning on the money line, over 45.5. Kind of like you already said, the Bills do look like the best team in the league. The Ravens did win last week to avoid starting 0-3. They won in Dallas, but it was a little bit concerning how Dallas was able to climb back into that game and make it a game when it should not have been after the first half the Ravens had. And the Ravens now are being outscored 39-17 in fourth quarter of games this year. Derrick Henry and Lamar's rushing ability in Dallas was promising, but it was also against the Cowboys, who going into that game, everyone was saying the Cowboys can't stop the run, and that was true. The Ravens do have one of the most talented rosters in the league, so they can win and compete in every game every week. But I like Buffalo, as Josh Allen is just doing Josh Allen things with his arm and legs this year. And the Buffalo defense has also been very solid, getting consistent pressure on QBs with 11 sacks through 3 games. So I'm going Buffalo on the road here.
Yeah, back to my expression, hat tip to Josh Allen. I've came on here the last few years and I've attacked him. I think I've once called him the most overrated player in the league. And while I still don't know if I fully believe that he'll be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, he certainly is playing the best football of his career right now. And I think it is well deserving of the MVP award if it was given out after 3 weeks. 634 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and most impressive for me, in my eyes at least, and for why I've always been so against him and eventually winning a Super Bowl, being an MVP, is the turnovers. And he has 0 interceptions thus far this season. He's been dominating and playing great. He still adds rushing with his legs when he needs to. James Cook has proven to be a very legit running back, and they have speed all around at wide receiver. Those guys at the receiver spot fly around. It's just a fun group to watch. And things in Baltimore just kind of seem off right now. Lamar basically, after the game last week, called out Harbaugh and was like, I don't like how we're taking our foot off the gas. Once we get up, we got to keep going. And we saw them blow that lead to the Raiders, nearly blew that lead to the Cowboys last week. And they had the Chiefs on the rope too, and they couldn't take them down. So Ravens are kind of struggling here in close games. And you figure with this 2.5 point spread, this is going to be a close one as well. I'm going to take the team with more momentum right now. Arguably the hottest and best team in the NFL through 3 weeks. And I'm going to go with the Bills on the road. I don't think they're scared. And I think they're playing without much pressure this year. I think coming into this year, it was kind of expected that like if they just make the playoffs or they just win the division, get themselves in, it's a successful year because they had a lot of moving roster pieces. So it feels like a lot of young guys are just kind of playing out there with house money and going kind of balls to the wall each week. And this is a fun team to watch. So I'm going to go with the Bills on the road, 30-27. Bills plus 2.5 and over 45.5 hitting there. All right, Monday night. We have another Monday night doubleheader this week. This is the second leg of the doubleheader. 3-0 Seahawks. I think we could toss them up there as well with the Vikings. As kind of no one saw that coming to start the year. But they play at the Lions, who are 2-1. 8:15 kick on ABC. Lions 4-point favorite here at home. Over under is 46.5. Mute.
Yep, sorry about that. I will be honest, I haven't paid a ton of attention to the Seahawks this year, and I'm also not a massive believer in Geno. Is that influenced my decision here? Yes, it is. 3-0 is always impressive in the NFL, but their 3 wins have come against teams that are currently a combined 3-6. I think the Lions go into Seattle, run the ball because that is their identity, and they got back to it a little bit last week. And then the Seahawks secondary is also leading the league in passing defense, so that's the strength of their defense. The Lions defense has improved a lot this year, while the offense is struggling a little bit to play consistently. So I think the Lions defense is able to limit Geno in this game, and the offense still kind of is figuring out their steps this year. And I think they look to just run the rock, and the Lions win 24, Seahawks 21, Seahawks plus 4, under 46.5.
Every week, the lines are on this show. This season, I'm going to come on here and give my same take as long as it continues to produce at the cash counter. I'm going to bet Jared Goff and Dan Campbell against the spread each and every week. Whether they are a favorite or a dog, the number is there to continue to back them. After covering last week against the Cardinals, Dan Campbell is now 39-18 against the spread since becoming a head coach, covering at a 68% clip. The best mark in the NFL by far. I believe the second closest team in that span is covering at 60%, so a whole 8% more. And he's also 16-9 against the spread after a win, which is third best in the league, and 20-9 against the spread at home, which is the best in the league. So Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, cover machines. I'm leaving the football out of it for this one mostly. I'm also not that big of a believer in Geno, but going to be interested to get a closer look at this team on Monday Night Football this week and focus in on them because, like you said, Kev, haven't really paid that much attention to them. I think it could be a very fraudulent 3-0, but we'll see on Monday night. It's a big test going to Detroit. But I'll go Lions 24, Seahawks 17. So the Lions -4 and the under of 46.5. All right, time for our final two picks of the day, the dog of the day and the lock of the week. I'll start us off with my dog of the day. I'm going with the Broncos, +7.5 at the Jets. I think it's a little bit too much points. I think the Jets are going to pull that one off in the end on the money line. But NFL underdogs of 5.5 points or more are now 14-2 against the spread this season with 10 outright wins. They went 5-0 in week 3. So dogs have been barking early in the season. Broncos get a win last week, maybe get headed on the right path with Sean Payton and Bo Nix. And go to play a Jets team that still early in the season, it's still the Jets to me. Could be a bit unpredictable, maybe another outright upset. I think the Jets will win, maybe by like a field goal, though, and the Broncos keep this game close. So give me Broncos +7.5 as my dog this week.
Yeah, a little bit of an ego plug here. I know both of our picks have struggled to start the season, but my dog of the day and lock of the week are both 3-0 to start the year. So my dog of the day for week 4, I'm going Commanders +3.5 against the Cardinals, or +154 on the money line. I'll take a shot on Jaden Daniels following up his incredible performance this past week with another solid day, and Cliff Kingsbury, a little bit of revenge game here as he continues to unlock Daniels' potential.
Yeah, Commanders look solid, man. I mean, I think they're another team that's just running around, flying around, having fun. And when you have a young, dynamic quarterback, that definitely adds to kind of the entire locker room, the entire team, and what they're going to look like. I know it's still early, 3 weeks in, but if we're looking at the Eagles as the favorite to win the division, I'd say right this second I'm a little bit more scared of the Commanders and potentially what they can do. But a lot of ball to be played. But certainly like that play as well. My lock of the week, I'm going Steelers Colts under 40.5. Already locked this play in. Anthony Richardson through 3 weeks. My take on him as potentially being the MVP hasn't looked so great. Your take of him not being a very good quarterback is looking better. But I think this week with that Steelers defense, it gives him fits. This will be the game, though, that he goes out there, lights it up for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground. But I think that Steelers defense has been awesome in the early going. I could see it giving them fits. I mean, it could be like a 20-0 game this week that the Steelers win. That's what it's kind of screaming to me. And I feel like the Steelers kind of each and every week here on out, until proven otherwise, could be like the Lions. Like, just take their under. Defense is that good. You know the offense is going to be ball control type and methodically move the ball down the field. So Steelers under 40.5 against the Colts is my lock of the week.
Yeah, my lock of the week is going to be the same game, kind of the same things you just talked about, but I'm going Steelers -1.5 against the Colts, -130. So you could parlay both of our locks of the week there. The Steelers defense is top notch, and Fields is just playing winning football, and then Anthony Richardson's just way too inconsistent. So Steelers -1.5.
All right, well, that will wrap it up for week 4 already. Hard to believe. Eagles already have the bye next week, which is insane. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Let's get a winning week. Kev, both of us feeling it this week. Need to get on the right side. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we will talk next week.